Hi and welcome. My name is Julianne Cost, and in the next few minutes we're going to take a look at the map module in Lightroom. Now, I know that people kind of group together their photographs differently. Sometimes people group them based on people or based on date that the images were taken, but I know another way today that's becoming much more popular is grouping images based on location. And why that might be more popular is, of course, because sometimes that location information is actually embedded in the photographs. So I have a few photographs here that we'll take a look at. I'll go ahead and select the first one. Now these images were taken with my iPhone, so all of the GPS data is actually embedded in them. And in fact, if we scoot over here to the metadata panel and we scroll down, we can see that the GPS data is right here. Now, if I want to view this image on the map or in the map module in Lightroom, I can click on the arrow to the right of that GPS information. And sure enough, all of the images that are in this collection that I have selected now appear on the map. And we have little markers here, and if I actually hover on top of the marker, it will show me that photograph. We can see a little further down the road, I actually have two images, so I can click through those two images that were taken there, and so on down the road. So if your file already contains GPS information, it's really easy to see that GPS information in the map module. But what if your images don't include GPS data? Well, there are a variety of different ways that we can add that GPS data to our images. But before we do that, we should really take a look at how we navigate the map. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to close this overlay of markers, but you should know that if you ever want to see that again, you can go under the View menu and then you can choose to show the map key and that will pop up again. All right, how do we zoom in and out? Well, it's very easy. There's no keyboard modifier necessary. We can simply tap the minus key in order to zoom out on our map, or we can tap the plus key in order to zoom in on the map. If I want to move around the map, I can either click and drag here in the large area, or of course I could use my navigator to quickly move larger distances. We also have a variety of different map styles. We can select those styles here from the list. For example, I can go to Hybrid, or we can use a keyboard shortcut. On the Mac, it would be Command 1 for the Hybrid, Command 2 for road maps, and so on. If you're on Windows, of course, that's the Control key. So we can take a look at the satellite view. Command 4 would be the terrain. 5 is just a light view, and 6 is a darker view. All right, let's go ahead and move back to the road map. That's Command or Control 2. Now, since some of the images in this collection have GPS data embedded in them and some of them don't, I would really like to filter so that I'm only looking at the images that do not include GPS data. So there's a location filter across the top, and I'm going to select the untagged images. So you can see that all of the images that had GPS data are now dim so that I won't select them on accident. Now we'll scroll over, and in fact I'm going to scroll all the way over here to the right because I want to select this sequence of images that starts right here. Then I'll hold down the Shift key and then select the last one. So now all of these images are selected, and I want to embed the GPS metadata to them, but of course I don't know exactly what that is. So up at the top I can do a quick search. You can see here that I've typed in Point Lobos and tap the return key, and we can see that Google Maps takes us directly to that location. Now we'll zoom in a little bit. Again, I'll just use the plus key, or I could hold down the Option key and then click and drag around an area to zoom to that exact area. But I can't quite tell from this view where I was, so let's go ahead and look at the Hybrid view. And now I can see this little cove right here happens to be the cove that's in this photograph. So if I click and drag and drop those images in that location, we can see now on the right-hand side that all of those images have had that specific GPS data applied to them. So it's as easy as dragging and dropping your images from the film strip onto the map to have that information applied. Now let's take a look at the images that still aren't tagged down here in the film strip. Another way that we might be able to find the GPS data, especially in a case like this where I'm really not sure where these images were photographed, is we could do a Google search for them. So I'll go ahead and select these images, and then we're going to scoot over to Safari here. And I actually spent a little bit of time on Google Maps to find this exact location. In fact, if we use our street view here, I can drop down right on this area. And if we take a look here, we can see that in fact these are the trees right here that are in that photograph, and this is the barn. It's just that this photo is actually older than the one that I took, and that's why the barn is white. So now that I have the latitude and longitude here, we can copy those values and then come back into Lightroom, where I can then paste in those values and then tap return or enter, and Lightroom will actually find that location for me. So now that I know where that location is, because there's a marker here on the map, all I need to do is simply drag and drop these on top of that marker, and the GPS information is filled in for me. Now, if this were a location that I visited quite frequently, what I might want to do is I might want to save this as a location. And in fact, you can see that I have a number of different locations already saved. Right now, the photo counts for these other locations are set to 0, but that's only because I'm not looking at all of my photographs. I'm only looking at my photographs within this collection. So let's go ahead and click to save a new location. So we'll go ahead and just name this. And then I can determine how large the radius should be, if this should be a large radius or a small radius. And if I move this out of the way, we can see how I can just narrow down on that specific area, or if I can make this a little bit wider. Then we'll go ahead and click Create, and we can see that there are 10 images within that save location. So now let's go ahead and switch so that I'm looking at all of my photographs. I might be tempted to go back to the library module in order to see them, but don't forget, down here at the top of the film strip, we can not only navigate to our more recent collections and folders that we visited, but I can also select all of my photographs here. And then we'll zoom out. And now we can see, for example, in Iceland, in my saved location, I've got 702 images. And in fact, if we click on the arrow right here, it would take me to that saved location and zoom in on it for me. So it's really quite an easy way to navigate to locations that you frequent often. So one additional way that you can actually embed or pair up information, GPS information, is if you have something that will actually keep track of where you are, like some kind of tracking device or a hiking device, in which case all you would do is come down here to the toolbar, and you can use this icon right here to load up that track log in order to pair that with the images. The one thing that you do want to make sure of is, of course, that your camera has the date and time set correctly, so those two will match. If they don't, you can come down here and you can set your time zone offset. It's just easier if you set that before you go out and photograph. Excellent. And just one last thing that I should mention, of course, location information can be a little bit sensitive. So I just want to show you that if you're in the library module and you do decide to export all of these images that now have this GPS data embedded in them, when you choose to export, right down here under metadata, you might want to choose to include only the copyright and contact information as opposed to all of your metadata. Because if you include all of the metadata, you would get the GPS. If you limit it down here to copyright and contact information only, it will strip out that information. Excellent. That wraps up this video on the map module. My name's Julianne Cost. Thanks for joining me.